Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, what is up? Welcome to The Lock Shop. Man, we started with that new wide shot, and we're like, oh, that looks great. That's a nice way to do it instead of just having me sitting here awkwardly. And then the audio wasn't selected properly. But, tomorrow we'll have the audio working properly, and we'll go wide shot, and it'll look super duper cool and professional. So that's good. It is Lock Shop. We are brought to you by Coolbet. If you're not yet signed up for an account at Coolbet, use the code LOCKSHOP when you do, and you get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit. Clint is in and says, is this because of the Cena turn? Well, yeah, I cannot wait. Trevor, you doing okay over there? Trevor, you were rattled there by the audio, and you're all right now?
What that was. Yes, that's the second time.
Hey, bounce back, buddy.
It happened
bounce
for the
back.
Nielson show this morning.
Yeah, that is weird.
The audio didn't send over. And today I've had to do it for both shows. That never happens.
We better remind the boys to check for EST afternoons.
Yep.
Hey?
They'll have to do that for sure.
Yeah, let's do that. And you talked about Cena a little bit this morning. Huss will be in. Well, I think that's where we have to start today. He's on the thummy. That picture of him turning evil while he hugs Cody Rhodes on the side. That's great as well. Mick Diesel over in the chat says Cena would play a good leprechaun. He does look a little leprechaun-ish on the one photo that we have there. But wrestling fans, if you want to chime in, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999, and we'll have that conversation with Huss. I want his thoughts on the breakdown, because that's gonna be good. Hey, look, we've got lots to get to. NHL over the weekend. We just missed out on our partner parlay for golf. We got Debo to Washington joining the Commanders. Who takes Rodgers, and do they get Devontae? We might get a little bit of NFL stuff. NHL tonight, TGL this afternoon and tonight. But yeah, let's bring in Huss for the full Elimination Chamber. Cena goes heel. Huss, I mean, I know what I've heard, but give me the goods. How shocking was Saturday night?
I haven't stopped crying for over 30 hours, Dusty. It was wild. It was wild. We had a game. Jets had a game that night. So I was down at the rink. I was out afterwards watching the late games. And then I did reel it in much earlier than normal, knowing that I had to stay away from my phone and spoilers and get to the Elimination Chamber. And it was a wild show, man. That Toronto crowd sure brings it. But listen, what everyone's talking about. The women's match was awesome. As I said, Trish Stratus, good Lord. looks like she never left. Her and Tiffy Time did a little number in that women's tag, and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were amazing, but it was all about the men's elimination chamber. And Cena gets the win, and then it was supposed to be like about Rock and Cody and setting up this big match. And then I'm sure people have seen it a million times. I mean, Cody tells The Rock to go F himself, and then The Rock comes in, he gives him the slice. And
keep going, Huss. We just got some audio issues. You keep going.
20 years of loyalty, hustle, and respect was gone in a moment. So what I was a little surprised of is just, and maybe this speaks to how big wrestling is. I mean, it was essentially everywhere. It was. I mean, if you went onto your phone late Sunday night, or late Saturday night or early Sunday morning, it was one of two things. It was John Cena turning heel, or Shane Gillis hosting SNL. And when Dusty gets back, I'll see what he has to say about that. But it sets up a pretty interesting scenario where John Cena, in his retirement year, if you will, is not going to be yucking it up and doing what he's done for his entire career, being the hero of children everywhere. He's going to be the bad guy. And I'll tell you what, it certainly gave a lot of juice into the WWE conversations right now. I should fire up the chat here and see what everyone's saying as we wait to get Dusty back. But the fact of the matter that we've got Cena on this show right there, make it happen. Now, it's so funny. So Penner's Pancake says, so Coolbet took the men's chamber off because of the Drew leak, and then he was the first one eliminated. See, I made a point of not seeing what the leak was because I didn't want it to ruin the viewing experience, but that doesn't surprise me at all. That if, in fact, the leak was that Drew McIntyre was the guy that was going to win, that Triple H then went and completely changed it all. So like so many things with wrestling, we'll kind of find out later on as to how it went down. But yes, there were thousands of crying children this morning, Dusty, over the last few days about what happened with John Cena. And Cena and The Rock as the bad guys was something I did not have on my card at the beginning of all of this, but it's going to make for a fun run to WrestleMania. You're muted.
Where does it go from here, Huss? Like, what's next for this? Because I saw some people say today, Rock had there was two of them, but there's a third one coming. Like, who do you think that could be?
A lot of speculation that there will be one more guy. Obviously, if you're looking at the biggest dogs, if you're looking at something, i.e. like the NWO back in the day, I mean, the one that would shock the most people would be Roman Reigns. I mean, if Roman Reigns somehow left the bloodline or whatever, and then was with Rock and Cena, knowing that Cena's only going to be around for this year, and then presumably the Roman would take over from there. I mean, I guess we would have. And here's Jason and LeDuc. Credit to the WWE. The finishes of the last two PLEs have had my jaw dropped. And then what the Penner's Pancakes? They also had the Rock segment as third on the run sheet before KO Sammy to protect the turn at the end. Yeah, a lot of love here for Triple H. I see we've got a little echo issue.
We're working on the echo issue. We're trying to get that sorted out.
Spency 5 Centsy. It's probably Huss's
We're good
fault.
now.
I can assure you that I have nothing to do with that, although I do know an echo every now and then. Remus has gotten good, though. He can get that thing done. He now knows what it is.
Well, that's why he's CTO, right, Huss?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mind you, you have to screw things up so many times to be able to.
It's really the only way to learn it. That's a good point.
Yeah, a lot of trial and error. But
so Roman Reigns, you think maybe, hey, that would be the guy?
Well, I mean, assuming that
is that the last thing people would expect, or would it be reasonable? Because this was kind of the last thing people would expect. Like, I wonder if there's another pop like that out there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, having that, like, it's going to be tough to beat that. I mean, a lot of people have said that this really is the most stunning turn in professional wrestling since Hogan in the NWO. But I could definitely see, like, if this is going to grow beyond just The Rock and Cena being sort of like Cena being the corporate champion and getting it done, like, there will be some other events afterwards. There will be SummerSlam. So I wouldn't be surprised that by the end of all of this, if Cena actually in his final act comes back to the fans and the kids and all that, I mean, it would seem kind of crazy for him to be the most beloved, arguably all-time best performer. And then in the last year, in the comeback year, ditch all the merchandise, all everything, be the bad guy, and then that's it.
You're right. I mean, he's got to finish where he always was, right?
I would think so. Yeah. I would think so, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So yeah, Raws are going to be good times over the next little while in SmackDown. And I guess when is WrestleMania here? It's, I think, the first
April 19th and 20th. We looked it up this morning.
Okay, 19th and 20th. So yeah, we're talking about a 6-7 week run here. So they'll ramp it up. Have you checked it out on Netflix at all?
Yeah. I mean, I'm dabbling in it a little bit more. Basically, what's happened now in that if I see something of significance happening on Twitter, I'll hop on over, pull up Netflix, and watch it. That's what happened with the Cena heel turn. I was about to go to bed. I'm looking on my phone. They're like, I can't believe Cena did this. I said, well, I got to go watch now. So I fast forwarded, watched the end of the Kevin Owens match, and then kept fast forwarding and watched like the last 30 minutes of the show. Watched the ending of the Elimination Chamber, and then watch what went down. So I'm kind of been sucked in a little bit more there than, because I wasn't like PVRing it before, but now it's just sitting there for me, so I can pop in and check it out. La Bamba guy texts in at 780-218-9999. It's a lock shop here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Says, serious question for Huss here. What's with all these old stars returning to WWE? Are ratings down? Are they trying to bring back old viewers? Or is there not enough marketable wrestlers entering the game right now?
Neither, to be honest. I mean, there certainly is a ton of marketable wrestlers, but at the same point, like The Rock and Cena are sort of different, right? Because these guys, they're older wrestlers. They're also the two of the biggest stars that sports entertainment's ever had, but they've also transcended wrestling into movies and entertainment. Now, The Rock's different. I mean, The Rock is on the board of TKO, and I'm not sure people kind of understand, but basically the WWE was bought by UFC, and it is now part of a company called TKO. So that's why, for instance, if you saw they were promoting a big thing going to Western Australia during the event, well, both the UFC and the WWE are going to be going there for events. So, I mean, The Rock is such a central figure, and he's such a huge star. They wanted to get him involved. So that is why the last couple of years they kind of had him to add in. And listen, Cena, it wasn't like he just went and retired. He had to leave because he was doing all these movies. So they wanted to get one more kick at the can for him. Now, listen, I hear you when we talk about AEW and some of the other guys that might come back for a pop. But these two guys we're talking about are on such another level from just about anybody that's active in WWE right now, as successful as it's been, that they'll get everything they can. And the idea, and this is the oldest story in the world, using the greats, the vets, to eventually put over the younger guys and have them ascend into their spots. So that, I think, is the plan that Triple H has cooking up for it all. And all in all, it'll be a fun few weeks. I did actually run the table. Every prediction was right. And I know there were some people that were back and forth on Cena, and even I wasn't entirely sure. Would have just been nice to get that number when it was up earlier in the week, as opposed to when we did the picks and it was off. But as I said, apparently, and I didn't know this because I didn't look for it, the leak that took the numbers down was Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre, that was the leak. Yep.
And he was the first guy that was out. So anyways, once again, they're never going into these things with everyone knows what's going to happen. And how about Pat McAfee very, very angry with the booing of the national anthem in Toronto. He was pissed off the entire show.
He issued an apology today, though. Not an apology, but he issued something on his show today saying that, let's just shake hands and move on. So, yeah, I saw that at least. I apologize for the echo that we had there. Managed to get it all sorted out. As I was over there helping Trev figure that out, I heard you mention, what was it? You mentioned Saturday Night Live, Shane Gillis as another option, or what?
I said there were two things that people were talking about on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
John Cena turning heel or the Shane Gillis SNL.
I watched both. I watched the entire SNL. Gillis was awesome. He's hilarious to me. And obviously I watched the end of Elimination Chamber and saw Cena as well. But Gillis, every sketch had me laughing out loud, actually, on Saturday Night Live. First time in a long time that happened.
The couple of beers sketch.
Yeah, classic. When he's like, and maybe you need a little bump.
A little bump at the end was over the top. That was as funny a skit as I've seen in a long, long time on that program.
They had a couple of them. They had one at the end. You got to go check it out. It was like the last sketch. It was this girl was getting married, and like if anybody, did you watch that one? Yeah, and he gets up. He's like, yeah, like the coupon for a sexual favor, and he's like, I'd like to cash this in right now. And then the husband's like, actually, I got. Oh, that was they nailed it, man. It was a really good show Saturday night. Best one I remember in a long time.
I know this is not a sports thing, and we'll get to it in a minute, but I do wonder that if he didn't get canceled before he even started on SNL, like if that never happened and he just started as a regular character.
This is a good question. I know where you're going.
And got in, would he have become as huge of a star as he has essentially on his own, and now coming back and being one of the most popular hosts? Or would he have been, or would he just that sort of natural talent would naturally take you and be one of the top guys on the card?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think it fast forwarded things for him a little bit. Like I don't know if he'd be back hosting already, but he'd probably be coming off a pretty good run there and doing his own thing anyway. Like it probably just fast forwarded things a bit. Like that current cast desperately needs like a main male anchor type of thing. And Gillis could have been that. He could have been that guy. But I think like if you could go back, I don't think he would change a thing. But God, was he good on Saturday? Like every sketch was just.
Now, here's the thing, and I don't really want to go there and dive into this, but I kind of have to when we're talking about this topic. Make no mistake, like Saturday Night Live historically, at least for the last 15 years, has maybe been for lack of a better term, the wokest entertainment organization around. So I think that's why. I think that's why. Well, first of all, why he got popped. Now, listen, whatever. He said some dumb things, screwing around on, on some old podcast, and paid the price for it. I think it's pretty clear whether it was malicious intent, but whatever, that wasn't going to fly, and he certainly wasn't going to get the benefit of the doubt. So for him to kind of move away from that, kind of own his brand of comedy and do it unapologetically himself, I think it basically took the shackles off and allowed him to be absolutely the best and funniest version of himself, if you're not super offended by some of the things that they use for humor, which most people, I think we can safely say, aren't. So it's just so funny that he goes back there in a group that has been notoriously super left. That's kind of always been where they're going. And he'll fire in with some things in his stand-up, like in his monologue, and some other things that are definitely at odds with what you normally get from Saturday Night Live. And to be honest, that I think is what made it that much better. No idea how he gets along with the cast and everyone like that. Yeah. I heard it was a little icy the first time that he came back and hosted for the first time. But they're bringing him back. The product was amazing. Everyone's talking about the show today. So I guarantee Lorne Michaels is not upset with their decision to bring him back.
I also really liked, he's got that sitcom too. I think it was 6 or 8 episodes. Tires? I think it's called
Tires.
That's a good show too. If you haven't checked it out yet, Tires has got, there's some laughs in that, man. It's really well done as well. All right. Also over the weekend, man, just missed out on the parlay, Huss. Just missed out on getting it done for the Lock Shop Partner parlay. The golf would have been a nice hit.
Listen, I was pumped. The Sepp Straka came through T11. So best of luck to you this week, Dusty. You're doing plays of the week day, and you're following up a 5-0 week. Ran the table last week, and the one we did do the golf pick on Wednesday, so had to wait until Sunday for it. But yeah, nice little 5-0 week. But Billy Ho bogeyed the 17th hole, was unable to birdie the 18th hole, and ended up finishing T25 as opposed to T18. And we had Sepp Straka, we had Shane Lowry. So literally one bogey on 17 was the margin of a 15-1 winner, or what, plus 1475.
Tough one. We'll recover. We've been doing pretty well, but that one hurt a little bit over the weekend. A couple other things from the weekend. We'll get to TGL tonight. We'll get to NHL tonight. Debo to Washington. What do you think of a landing spot there for Debo Samuel and the Commanders?
Amazing landing spot. Underwhelming return for the Niners. But I guess this is much moving around in the salary cap machinations. Like Debo Samuel, when he's healthy, is an absolute stud. And I think about putting him there along with Terry McLaurin, Robinson, and you've got Jaden Daniels. I love the ad. Now, as long as he's going to be able to, suit up and play, which I think that he will be able to. I'm definitely here for it. I got a friend that Connor Rabchak that works with us is a massive Niners fan, and his favorite player is Debo Samuel. So I texted him on Saturday afternoon, Debo to the Commanders, and he gave me the upside down face with the for a 5th round pick. But at least he's going to a place where he's going to get a chance to be a definite difference maker. And as they say, to me, it's all about his health, Dusty. But if he's healthy next year, I could see him being back to where we remembered him as a very, very impactful fantasy player.
Also, one more from the NFL. Do you expect anybody to? Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Just before we move on from just completely get away from the golf.
Yeah.
Joe Highsmith.
Yes.
He was like another 125 to 1 guy.
How are you supposed to pick those guys? You know, like how are you supposed to do that?
And how is that guy supposed to win a tournament wearing that hat? Did you see that?
No, I'm gonna look it up right now. Let me see.
He wears the bucket hat, but the extra long, extra wide bucket hat. It looked almost like a sombrero. And he wore it the whole tournament. It was just hilarious.
Oh, man. His neck got no sun. Like, his neck is fine. Don't have to worry about that.
If you go to my Twitter feed, the second tweet is Joe Highsmith showing up to the Cognizant Classic trophy ceremony, and it is a guy wearing, well, literally the largest hat in the history of the world. But I've been laughing about this guy's hat for the last 2 days, and then he wins it. So
that's pretty funny, actually. Even Titleist is on the front of that hat, and even Titleist is like, take this thing off, dude. Yeah, wear one of our other hats. We don't want people to know we made this.
Hey, you know what? Although it's different when a guy actually goes out and wins like that, there probably is going to be a bunch. Hey, if a PGA Tour winner can wear this ridiculous sombrero, why can't I?
Yeah,
you'll see those moved. There's a million regular Titleist hats out there. The Highsmith. The Joe Highsmith Honda Classic version or Cognizant Classic version has not been seen so far. But yeah, back to the NFL for notes. Debo's gone. The combine's finished. Sounds like there is like the best running back class ever, Dusty. Like, I think teams are going to be getting studs in like mid rounds when it comes to running backs this year, which is probably not a great thing for veteran running backs coming off the year where the veteran running back signed and became the most impactful guys around.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to hit on from the NFL too is the whole Davante Adams. Could he be moved to wherever Aaron Rodgers ends up? Huss, which team do you think is desperate enough to sign Rodgers and trade for Davante Adams? Somebody texted in to say this totally sounds like a Raiders thing to do.
That was the right at the tip of my tongue. The only thing I'm thinking, well, the Raiders just traded Davante Adams to the Jets.
But if he comes with Rodgers, maybe it's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to go there originally to play with Carr. Carr was gone, and then things went south. I mean, both of those guys are on their last legs. I think they'd probably feel comfortable with themselves to do it. I mean, who are the other places that need quarterbacks? I mean, obviously New York, like the Giants.
The Giants.
You know, he could just move from the Jets to the Giants, play in the same stadium. I guess Adams would have to be traded.
He has to be traded. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they could do a little bit of business there.
It's not going to cost you a lot to get Davante Adams off the Jets books. You know, like
no. It's got a big like you're thinking about quarterback places. Cleveland. I kind of think that Kirk Cousins is maybe a little bit more likely to go in there with Stefanski having.
That would be more of a tie-in.
I mean, you have to be able to handle the Aaron Rodgers experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Oakland, I think, or Vegas, I think, does make the most sense, especially with the presence of Brady there. Like, there'll be a mutual respect between Brady and Rodgers. I don't think Rodgers has really respected anybody in front offices for the better part of the last decade or so, and has kind of went about doing it his way. I think that would be a situation that they could sort of get him in line to know, hey, this is what you can do. This is what we're expecting of you. Support him, but at the same point, avoid maybe some of the things that went wrong in other spots. And for Adams, it would be great. Listen, I went to that Chiefs-Raider game. 90% of the Raider fans were wearing Max Crosby's. The other 10% were wearing Davante Adams jerseys, and he'd just been traded. So there'll be a lot of people that'll be able to pull the 17s back out of the closet if they do get him. I mean, I guess the Saints, like the Carr thing is such a disaster. Like, I don't know whether they could just cut Carr, eat whatever, and still be able to bring on Adams and Aaron Rodgers. But I mean, that's another team that is very much quarterback needy. And you know what? New Orleans is the weirdest city in the world. It'd be a perfect spot for Rodgers to go do his thing. I mean, he'd be able to probably go after practice for like an ayahuasca retreat or something like that. I mean, there's all sorts of things. The voodoo doctors down there. I mean, this sounds to me like actually maybe a perfect fit. But I think I'd have to say the Raiders and or the Giants. Just those two markets, the hole at quarterback. But put it this way, I mean, I think it doesn't really matter based on the landscape of the NFL right now. If you're a big Rodgers fan, watch early in the regular season, because I don't know whether his team is going to be playing meaningful games in the second half of the season or part of the playoffs.
It's Nielsen and Huss. It is the Lock Shop. We are brought to you by Coolbet. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Or if you're over on YouTube, you can hammer the thumbs up for us. And that would be great. We're at 28 there. Let's smash through that. And if you have any questions or comments, you can hit us up over in the nasty chat as well. We're going to get to the NHL slate tonight. Some with deadline week kicking off, some more movement on the Ranton in front. But Huss, let's hit TGL quickly first before we slide on over. Doubleheader today starts at 1 o'clock Edmonton time and then 5 o'clock Edmonton time. The Bay versus Los Angeles, Boston Common versus New York tonight, and then Atlanta Drive getting Jupiter Lynx tomorrow. Huge one here between Los Angeles and the Bay, buddy. This is a big one. Is this not for first place?
I believe it is. Now, I'm just going to the homepage. Players arrive. ahead of USA and the Bay. Okay, who do we have here today? Yes, this is what I was worried about. And this is the minute I saw that the Bay were underdogs to LA.
Yeah.
I'm like, uh-oh. That probably means our guy Ludwig is not playing.
He is not playing.
And
Correct.
that is the case. So we're going to let the chef cook. Minwoo Lee is in for the Bay, along with Shane Lowry, who had a nice weekend in Florida, and Wyndham Clark, going against Sahith, who rolled up wearing the Kobe jersey today. Colin Morikawa and Tommy Fleetwood is back. Now, are we still at the 130? Yeah,
minus
the odds
130.
haven't changed. I mean, I really wanted to pick the Bay, but to me, Ludwig is such a difference maker on that. I mean, they do drop somewhat with Minwoo coming in as opposed to Ludwig. So I probably won't do as big a bet as I normally do, but I think I am still going to back the Bay. I do like the number, and like Schauffele has not really played, right? Or sorry, Schauffele's the next one.
Yeah, Schauffele's in the next one. He's playing today. He'll be playing for New York. That's
LA needed a miracle last week. LA needed a miracle last week against Boston, coming back the way they did. Tony Finau was a big part of that. I'm put it this way: this won't be a big play. The bigger play might be later on tonight. Boston Common versus New York in the TGL.
Who do you like in that one?
Let's just see if we can get these.
Boston Common is a minus 128 favorite. It will be Rory, Keegan Bradley, and Adam Scott against Xander, Ricky Fowler, and Cameron Young.
I'm going to stay rolling with New York. I don't know why they're the underdog in this one. Like the Boston team just hasn't done it at all this year. Scott and Rory. I mean, listen, Rory's Rory. But New York's getting Xander back.
Yeah, New York is 1-2-1. Boston Common is 0-3-1. The only winless team on the TGL schedule.
I think this might be basically like an elimination game too. Like, do we have the standings here?
Yeah, well, you're right. New York is just above the playoff cut line. Jupiter Lynx is in 5th. Boston Common's in 6th. Like, Boston Common has to have this. And then if they beat New York and it doesn't go to overtime, they would both be 1-3-1. And I apologize because I am not very familiar with TGL tiebreakers.
Yes. So they've got a full run here up on the playoff possibility. The winner of the Bay and LA. So that's today's match that we were just talking about is going to be the number 1 seed in the playoffs. If LA wins in overtime, there'll be tiebreaker scenarios to determine the top seed. Atlanta is in and could improve to the number 2 seed with the win over Jupiter and Tiger in its final match Tuesday, but can't drop out of the number 3 seed. Okay, so here it is. New York is currently in 4th place. All New York has to do is win its final match today against Boston to guarantee the 4th and final playoff spot. Win versus Boston, or an overtime loss versus Boston and a Jupiter loss to Atlanta. Loss versus Boston, Jupiter lost to Atlanta, and more holes won than Boston and Jupiter.
Oh, boy.
So basically, for Jupiter to win, they've got to win and New York has to lose. And then for Boston, they need to win and they need Jupiter to lose and more holes won than New York. Or win versus New York and overtime loss and more holes win. So I'm going to make it easy. New York, minus 103, win the match and move on to the playoffs. And I know that we're getting it. I might even do a little two-banger.
I was waiting for you to say you do a little two-gamer here.
I was going to, with the 2 underdogs, with the 0-2-0-2, but I think I might wait and leave the New York one for later And maybe because it's early and there's also an early curling draw, maybe we do up a little afternoon delight in the lock shop and combine a little TGL with some Brier action. We got anything, any lines that are... Jacobs is playing PEI. Jacobs beat a team last night 20-2.
Yeah, we were talking about that this morning. Yeah, I threw 8, right? It went 8.
Yeah, it went 8. It was 15-2 going into the 8th. Like, he was just winning. He was getting 3, 4, 5 every time he got it. Some pretty big lines this afternoon. Saskatchewan's minus 111. Ontario over Yukon. Although the Yukon had a big win last night. They screwed up a parlay for me. I had all the other 3 games right. And then Nova Scotia, never mind, didn't cover. They lost outright to Yukon. I was kind of impressed with that Ontario team last night playing against Mike McEwen. Jacobs minus 123 at minus 4.5. Ooh. And then we've got Saskatchewan, Mike McEwen versus Quebec. I like the way Mike's playing. I really like the way Mike's playing. Maybe we go Saskatchewan minus 164. Let me just quickly check on this Prince Edward Island team. Because Jacobs is absolutely smashing everybody. To win by 5 is a lot. PEI is 0-3. Well,
he's going to do it. He's going to do it, isn't he?
We're going to lay the 4.5 on. So this is Jake. If you're in there, if we can fire up a little quick afternoon delight out of the lock shop, the Bay to beat LA, Mike McEwen minus 1.5 over Quebec, and Jacobs minus 4.5 over PEI. It's plus 478 manually put in. Let us know if we can get that one up in the combo cards or whatever. We can jump on that for the next hour or so before the TGL starts. And then obviously we've got a TGL game tonight that we can get to, along with a few hockey games tonight.
Six. I was just looking at the goalies, buddy. 6 NHL games tonight. We've got some confirmed starters right now. If you're watching over on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up for the Lock Shop. That would be great. Sub to the channel if you haven't already. The oil stream, it's going to be an interesting one on the way in about 20 minutes. And, of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk with Huss over on the WST channel in 20 minutes as well. Logan Thompson will start. Washington has lost 3 in a row. Logan Thompson will get the start for the Caps at home against the Senators. Allmark confirmed there. Good goaltending battle. Sorokin is confirmed or listed as likely for the Islanders. Nothing yet on the Rangers, but Shesterkin is projected. Samuel Montembeault will go for the Habs at home against Buffalo. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen unconfirmed at this point. Tampa and Florida tonight. Bobrovsky versus Vasilevsky. Georgiev will go for the Sharks. They're in Toronto to take on the Leafs. Stolars is unconfirmed right now. Spencer Knight will make his first start for the Chicago Blackhawks, and Darcy Kemper unconfirmed for the Los Angeles Kings on the road in Chicago tonight. So more games than we usually see on a Monday. Not that it's a huge slate, but we sometimes get stuck on Mondays with 2s and 3s, and we got 6 games to look at tonight, Huss. So what's play number 1? What do you like the most here?
Well, I don't know whether I'll put this on a parlay, but I think I might sprinkle on the Sens at plus 125 against Washington. And again, I had sort of telegraphed this. We saw Ottawa last week. Jets beat them. On the Saturday, they got all their guys back. They got Tkachuk, they got Norris, they got Pinto. Like, Washington was going to lose some games at some point, and they were going to go through a period where things weren't rolling as smoothly as they were the entire time. And it kind of just feels like this is that time. But, man, when you look at the standings right now in the East, how about that weekend for the Columbus Blue Jackets? Beating Detroit in Detroit and then beating them again.
Yeah, huge
in
weekend
front of 95,000. Like Columbus right now controls their own destiny. They're in the first wild card with 68 points. They've got 2 points on the Wings, and then they've got 4 points on the Sens and the Rangers, and the Boston Bruins. Now, the thing with Ottawa is Ottawa has a game in hand, and this game in hand is tonight. They would help themselves massively with this win. Now, again, there's still 22 games, so we're probably going to be having this conversation for the next 6 weeks. But I'm not going to be betting Washington, because I think if you like Washington, that minus 147 number seems pretty good, for a top team in the league. Maybe this is just me pulling for Ottawa. Anyways, that game really intrigues me. The other one, I don't know if you caught this one in the group chat, and I'm sort of feeling Jake on this one. Being a Leafs fan, he's looking at Tampa and Lightning. He says, oh, great, we're into 3-point season. What could screw the Leafs the most? Well, a 3-point game between these two teams. Wouldn't surprise me if that one went the distance to minus 320. Tampa's playing so well, though, right now. The Lightning have won 8 in a row. The Panthers have won 3 in a row to their credit. They still don't have Matthew Tkachuk. So I think if you wanted to side on that, I would be down with Tampa at plus 130 at a nice little number.
Yeah, I like Tampa too, actually. And this one, Tampa's been playing really well lately. Vasilevsky's got a 946 save percentage, 10-2-1 in his last little stretch. Tampa's been rolling. Florida's power play's been struggling a bit. I think that's a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good number on Tampa. I know it's plus 130, but I'd throw that into a parlay tonight.
The Leafs, look at that top of that division. So the Leafs have 1 point on Florida. And they have a game in hand, and they've got 4 points on Tampa. Tampa has a game in hand on them. Like that race could go right down to the wire. But for the Leafs, you have got to feel like it's imperative that you win that division, considering the situation that you're in, and allow Florida and Tampa to beat the hell out of each other in the first round. And you're going to get the likes of Columbus or Detroit or Ottawa or the Rangers. I personally want a Leafs Ottawa series. I think that would be so much fun in the first round. But yeah, Tampa, I mean, listen, they're until they lose, I think we keep riding with them. And you know what? Florida's been good. They always are. These two teams know each other really well, but the way they're rolling right now, stay with them. Now, how about this? Islanders, Rangers. This is the other interesting one tonight. Rangers are a short favorite, minus 115 at home. Islanders, minus 102. The Rangers just played last night against the Nashville Predators. Shut them out. So the Rangers are on the second of back-to-backs. The Islanders are playing tonight. I guess the Jets get the Islanders tomorrow. So the Islanders will be on the second of back-to-backs tomorrow night. I mean, these teams are pretty close. I think the Islanders are pretty much done. Well, let's see. We say they're done. They've got 61 points. They win this game tonight. They hop Philly. They tie Montreal. And then they're just 1 point back of Boston, the Rangers, and the Senators. Part of me just wants the Islanders to lose, so maybe they can get going with trading some guys like Brock Nelson.
Yeah.
Maybe to the Jets. But I don't know. I'm kind of thinking the Islanders in this game, just considering the Rangers played last night. It's a little bit of a tough spot. There's no real, I guess there's not a lot of travel for the Rangers. But
yeah, not a lot. And I mean, Jonathan Quick played last night, and he played well. So Shesterkin will be good to go in this game. They beat the Islanders 5-1 like last week.
They did.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other games that we have, Sharks, Leafs, massive line for the Leafs.
Huge number there. Like
you could take the puck line at minus 137
on a 1.5. We could do that. I mean, for a parlay.
And the Kings. Okay, this is a little.
Kings have sucked on the road, right?
They yes, they have. It's funny, I think they messed up the line here for the puck line. and the Kings, they have the Kings at plus 2.5.
That's weird.
Now, but that's why it's minus 12.99.
Yeah, it should be the other way.
Usually not the way that it is. You want the Blackhawks by 3, you can get that at plus 800. But
I really like that Leafs puck line, buddy. I think we throw that in.
Okay.
San Jose's lost 8 in a row. Like, there's nothing going on there for the Sharks right now. And they've lost. I'm just looking at their last losses: 2 goals, 1 goal, 1 goal, 1 goal, 5 goals, 1 goal, 1 goal, 4 goals. But the Leafs have been rolling on the other side of this thing: 6 goals, 5 goals, 5 goals, 3 goals, 6 goals. Like, they're scoring in bunches, and I just don't see San Jose slowing them down to keep it close. So I do like that. So Tampa at plus 135, Leafs at minus 137. We're at plus 307. What's our third game here?
Do you have a lean on this Islander Ranger game or the Habs and Sabres?
We have not talked Habs and Sabres just yet.
Close to a pick 'em.
Let's see here.
Habs have won 4 in a row. That's usually when they lose. And the Sabres are coming off a couple losses, including, they just lost at home. Okay, this is interesting. This is a home and home.
Yeah, it's a home and home. They played on Saturday, right?
They played on Saturday. Montreal won in Buffalo. Tough to beat a team 2 times in a row. I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo came back and had a much better effort tonight, to be honest with you.
I'd be okay with that. I could see that. Let me see if I have any. Let's see here. What's the number on Buffalo? It's pretty much close, isn't it? It's
like a pick 'em. They're a slight dog, minus 105.
Yeah, I'd be okay throwing that. That's going to be a pretty nice number then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll get over. It's almost 7-1 before the boost.
Yeah.
So we go Tampa plus 135, Buffalo minus 105, and then the Leaf puck line at minus 137 at plus 694. And we'll pop that one up and probably be in and around plus 750, I think, by the time it hits the board.
Jake says the afternoon delight is up in the combos. I don't see it yet on my feed, but if he says it's up there, you'll probably be able to find it. And then, it is deadline week, Huss, and the number continues to move here on Mikko Rantanen. I know the boys brought this to our attention in the chat. It's now sitting at Carolina Hurricanes minus 270. And when we talked about this last week, we saw it at minus 417. On February 26th, it was minus 625. Now it's minus 270. Any other team plus 190. Where do you come out on this now?
God, there's so much talk about it. I'm trying to decipher whether it's because it could legitimately happen or just because it's such a juicy story for all the insiders and everyone to talk about while we wait for guys to get traded. There's been some interesting reports. And the first trade in the ESPN piece today was Rantanen coming to the Jets.
Oh, wow.
We know that the Jets have been interested in him. Now, there's kind of 2 things that I think that were discussed, but one centers around Nikolai Ehlers. I got a hard time. The thought of Ehlers he's just such a dynamic player and adds so much to the club. But come playoff time, he's a little smaller. He has not been, early on in the season, I don't really have a lot to say. It wasn't like he was the reason why they didn't do much the last couple of years. But how much of an upgrade is it to Mikko Rantanen, who is 6'4", 220, 225, has won a Stanley Cup, knows exactly what is going to be. I also wonder where he fits with the Jets. Like, do you break up Connor Scheifele-Velarde to put Rantanen up there? What happens to your power play when you move Ehlers out, who's such a dynamic guy that's really been, I think, the biggest difference from last year's power play?
Yeah, they're such different players, eh? Such different
Very
players.
Much so. Very much. But the ESPN thing had Ehlers and Kupari going to Carolina for Rantanen. Now, both Ehlers and Rantanen are in the same situation as their pending UFAs. But this would give Carolina a chance to try to re-sign Ehlers and keep him. I don't have high hopes that Rantanen is going to sign in Winnipeg. But again, you never know. Bottom line is, for right now, I mean, it definitely would change a little bit of the way the Jets look. The power play would look a little different. The second line, one way or the other, would look pretty different. And I think, but the funny thing about that is that is just kind of changing players. Like, there's no futures or anything for that. So if you went from a second line of Perfetti, Nemetsnikov, and Ehlers to a second line of Rantanen, Brock Nelson, and Perfetti, I would make the argument that you're in a much better situation. Now, that would mean you're trading Ehlers and Kupari. Let's just assume that this is the sort of offer they're talking about. And then having to get off probably a first-round pick, one of your top prospects, another player, to get Brock Nelson. It would significantly shake up what the team's done, but only on the one line. The Scheifele line would be intact. You've got the Lowry line. Fourth line would change a little bit without Kupari, but David Gustafson's able to go. Certainly going to give us a lot to chew on over the next few days, but I'm quite intrigued. Hey, what did you think of the Seth Jones deal before we wrap it up?
To be honest with you, I was caught a little bit off guard by it.
Me too. I was all pumped that I had them at plus.
Yeah, I love the 3-1 on staying and making it an off-season move. I mean, Florida Panthers not messing around. I like seeing teams who've already got it done trying to load up and do it again. Now they've got this Kachuk cap space huss. So Florida could go into the playoffs with another monster here. And I think Jones would be a good fit. I think he'll be a good fit on a good team. You know what I mean? Like, let's see how this guy plays when he's on one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. I think he's a good pickup for them.
This is what I want to know. What is the value of the cap space right now? So if Chicago was just going to trade him to Florida, and not eat 25% of the contract, which is like $2.25 million a year. So we're talking about over $10 million over the life of the contract. Would it just have been Spencer Knight? Like, is the first round pick sort of the sweetener for taking all that money? Because it's a lot of money.
A second and a fourth went as well, right? Did a second and a fourth go as well?
I thought it was just it was the first Spencer Knight and maybe second and the fourth were the Jimmy Vesey deal.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. What is 2 point whatever worth right now, pick wise?
For 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's over 10. Like, Chicago's going to be spending more than $10 million.
Yeah.
To pay Seth Jones, to pay for the Panthers.
So if that cap hit was coming in full, would Spencer Knight have been enough? I don't know.
Like, everyone's saying, oh my God, Kyle Davidson, let him cook. He just completely fleeced Florida. Well, did he? I mean, as I said, like, the Jones that was a $9.5 million defenseman on the Blackhawks is now a $7 million defenseman on the Florida Panthers. And I would argue that significantly changes the value where you slot him in. I mean, he was their franchise guy. They've got a bunch of dudes on the blue line in Florida. But it makes a lot of sense. They've got Bob, Spencer Knight. They rushed him too early and then realized, well, we've got a really good guy in Bob who won us a cup. He wasn't, that was an asset that they could afford to move off of. And again, their first round pick, they're assuming that's going to be in the bottom 5 anyway. So they'll be willing to do it. I mean, I think it's a pretty good deal for Florida. But I get it. I mean, if you don't care about the money and you're on the Chicago side of things, you're looking at it like, all right, well, we're better for the future moving forward. And it sounded like that situation was pretty ugly too. Like, he didn't want to be there, and
he was ready to go
comments last week. So the sooner I think they got that done, the better.
Huss, what's coming up on WST today?
Well, we're going to talk a lot of trade deadline. We're going to go over everything over the course of the weekend. Michael Trakos from the Hockey News is going to jump on with us. And then a full wrap of the week and a look ahead for the Winnipeg Jets heading into Friday as they get on a plane right about now and head out to New York City for that game against the Islanders on Long Island tonight. But I've just jumped in. Afternoon delight. Look at that. We got it up to plus 550. So if you're looking for something fun this afternoon, let's do a little sim golf and curling. parlay. This could be one of the first ever. We've got the Bay as the underdog. No Ludwig Oberg. I still believe in the Bay. They can clinch first place in TGL. Mike McEwen -1.5 against Quebec, and Brad Jacobs -4.5 against PEI, right at the top of the combo cards. Jump on that. And the partner parlay is up already too, Dusty, just about at 8-1.
8-1.
Buffalo,
beautiful.
Tampa, and the Leafs. Look at the boys taking care of it. Let me be the first one to get in on this.
All right, we've got the oil stream coming up in about 3 minutes right here on EST. WST firing up right away with us as well. We'll be back on the Lock Shop tomorrow, breaking it all down. Thank you very much for joining us today on the Lock Shop. Best of luck tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow.